Hi everybody, it's Don from Don's Family Vacation. I have another subscriber video this week. They would like me to talk about traveling solo on cruises because, yeah, out of 85 cruises, probably half of them I've been traveling solo, so I know a little bit about it, and I'm going to share what little I do know coming up right after this. The main thing that puts a lot of solo cruisers off is the fact that cruise lines will count a stateroom as a double occupancy. So they're expecting 2 people in there for the food and they price everything out that way. So if you're one person in there, they're still charging that cabin for 2 people. So if you're traveling by yourself, quite often you're paying double the cost of what per person would be. Now, some of the cruise lines are starting to wake up that there's a lot more single travelers out there nowadays for various reasons. Norwegian Cruise Line has now studio suites on some of their cabins. The Quantum class in Royal Caribbean has 28 dedicated solo traveler cabins. And what's really exciting is the new Celebrity Edge that's coming out in 2018. They have 119 cabins, and some of those cabins are balcony cabins, which is unheard of. It's the first in the cruise industry to have solo cabins with balconies on them, and I'm looking really forward to trying out some of those cabins to see what they're like. Here's another tip: if you're looking for a good price as a solo traveler and you can't find sales or single cabins anywhere, look at the smaller ships, not the big ships, because quite often the single supplement is only 25, 30, 40% instead of 200%. So yeah, if you're looking for a deal, the smaller ships might be just right for you. If you'd like to meet people while you're on the cruise, book shore excursions through the cruise line. One of the reasons you want to do it through the cruise line is because you're guaranteed to have people directly from your ship on that shore excursion. Otherwise, if you book another, you could get 5 different cruise lines on that shore excursion, and you meet a nice friend and everything's great, and you find out they're sailing on another ship. So book your shore excursion through the cruise ship that you're on, and chances are you're going to meet people only from your ship. Another thing you should look at when you're going by yourself is theme cruises. You know, dance cruises, rock cruises, food and wine cruises, you name it, singles cruises for that matter, because over 40% of people on theme cruises are quite often just going with friends and by themselves. So it's a great way to meet other people who are traveling alone. And you don't feel quite as out of place on those cruises as you would on, say, a normal cruise. It's all full of couples during Valentine's Day week. So keep that in mind. Themed cruises. Dining is kind of your preference. Do you want to be alone? Do you want to mingle with other people? You can get the set dining times where you're going to be seated with the same group of people all the time. It's a good way to meet people and have people to talk to at dinner instead of, you know, sitting at a 2-person table all by yourself. Or do you want to sit by yourself and have that 2-person table? Are you just out to unwind and be by yourself? So you can make those arrangements ahead of time by talking to the maitre d' before you go, or talking to guest services when you arrive, and choose the dining that you want to do instead of having the cruise line choose it for you. As I mentioned before, cruise lines are very well aware that there are a lot more people traveling on their own. So one of the things they do on a lot of cruises now is they have a meet and greet at the beginning of the cruise for only solo travelers. So it's a great way to introduce yourself to people. You'll see some faces and maybe you'll recognize them during some of the events and some of the things that you're doing on the ship. So another great way to mingle with people that you don't know yet. One thing that people say when they travel by themselves that they really like is the fact that the cabin is all theirs. They have an entire cabin to themselves. So it feels like, and it is, you have double the space that you would normally have with another person. You have more room to stretch out. Even on an inside cabin, you don't feel as claustrophobic. You have the bathroom to yourself whenever you want. You have the balcony to yourself if you're in a balcony suite. So it's a great thing to have that wide space when you're traveling by yourself, is that, yeah, the cabin's all yours. And yeah, if you want, because no one's with you, if you just want to lounge around in your underwear or, in your bathing suit, you can go ahead and do it because there's no one else around. Did I just share too much about my cruising habits there? Let's talk about some of the assumptions people have when you're by yourself on a cruise. They automatically think you're a single person, and heck, if you're a single person, you're probably looking to meet somebody while you're on the cruise. And sometimes that's true, but quite often it's the farthest thing on your mind. You're just vacationing, want to relax from your busy schedule, yet people are coming up to you and hitting on you, and yeah, it can be very annoying. So be prepared for that when you're going on a cruise. I recommend this to everybody, but especially when you're by yourself, get involved. When they ask for volunteers at a pool party or in a game show at some of the events that they're holding, don't be shy, raise your hand, get involved, put yourself out there. People will now recognize you on the cruise because you were up on stage or you were in front of a lot of people. And if you're a fun person, you're just having fun and going with it, it's great. And you know what? Even if you make a fool of yourself, what the heck? You're by yourself anyway. Who are you trying to impress? In this day and age, with modern technology and social media and things like that, cruise lines will often set up a Facebook page or a meet and greet page on their site for particular cruises that they're going on. So if your cruise has one, join those pages and introduce yourself to people, chat with people online, find out what they're excited about to do, say what you're excited to do. And it's a good way to talk and chat and see if your personalities match with anybody in particular while you're out there. You'd be quite surprised how many friends you can make just chatting online on a Facebook page before your cruise. And then who knows, you just might want to get together for an event or coffee or just dinner. It might be a great way to know people before you get on that ship. Here's an inside tip. Make sure you make friends with the staff. Make friends with the maitre d', make friends with your chambermaid, make friends with the concierge desk, make friends with the people at guest services, because let them know you're traveling alone. They will have inside tips and inside secrets for places to go and things to do that you may never have thought about. And also, if you introduce yourself to the bartender, you make friends with the bartender, they can run interference for you if you're just sitting there having a drink and you don't want to be bothered by anyone. It's a great way to just have some security around you and have knowledge of people around you who can kind of watch out for you. And if they like you and you like them and you get along, they're going to look out for you just like you're a brother and sister. I've never done this one myself, but I do know people who have done it. They want to go on a cruise, there's no subsidy discounts, and you have to pay double the price, and they can't afford double the price. So what they do is some cruise lines offer roommate matching services where they'll introduce you to somebody ahead of time, and you can chat, you can talk and decide yes or no whether this person you think would be a good fit to share as a roommate on board. A lot of people swear that it's been fine. I've heard a couple stories that, yeah, not so great after a while. So keep that in mind. If you say yes to this roommate, you're stuck with that person for the length of the cruise. So it's kind of like buyer beware. As more and more of us are traveling solo out there from now on, more and more cruise lines are even adding perks for solo travelers. Look at Norwegian now. They have the studio suite area that's blocked off. It's all new. They're the newest suites on the ships. They're bright, they're colorful, they're designed specifically for a solo traveler, and they built a studio lounge in that area that's only accessible to the people staying in those cabins. It's open 24 hours a day. You can get beverages in there. There's a bartender, there's a TV. It's 2 stories, lots of seating, couches, TVs, coffee, some snacks. You name it, it's kind of in there, and it's your own private lounge. It's kind of like being part of the VIP section and you didn't pay for it. It's included in the price of your solo ticket. One of the reasons I said to let the staff, make friends with the staff while you're out there, is also if something happens to you, you get injured on a shore excursion by yourself, or you trip downstairs, anything can happen. They will start to wonder where you are and might ask a few questions as well. That being said, always have medical insurance when you're leaving the country on a cruise. And I don't care if it's a one-day cruise, have that medical insurance, because I always carry in my lanyard a copy of my medical insurance along with my card and my passport information as well. That lanyard, if I get injured, people can just take that lanyard and they have all the information they need. They have my medical insurance if I need to go to the hospital, if they need to contact the Canadian Embassy or find out who I am or where I am. They have my passport information, and they know I'm part of that cruise ship. So medical insurance, and keep that on you so people can find out who you are if the worst happens while you're out there. So you did what I said, you made friends with the maitre d' at the restaurant. Here's another tip. Ask them if you can be seated with other singles for dinner. They will know a lot of people who are traveling by themselves, and if you'd rather sit with a bunch of people who are traveling solo as a bunch of people who are in a group cruise or on their honeymoon, or couples in general who are talking about their kids all the time, and you just want to talk to other people who are out by themselves, ask to be seated with other solo travelers. This goes for every kind of travel, but a lot on cruises as well. If you're in a foreign country that doesn't speak English as their main tongue, or even as mostly their secondary language, beware of taxis, because a lot of these places, especially at night, they will notice your English, they'll notice you're traveling by yourself, and they may try and take advantage of you. I hear horror stories all the time. One story was a person stepped into the cab at a taxi stop. The driver spoke no English. They couldn't communicate. He couldn't tell the driver where he wanted to go, so he just stepped out of the cab. The cab driver jumped out of the cab, started screaming at him and going like this, as if you owe me money. The cab didn't take him anywhere. And he started to argue back with the taxi driver, and before you know it, 3 or 4 more taxi guys got out of their car and started heading towards him. So it can be very intimidating and very scary. So beware of taxis if they don't speak the language and you're unfamiliar with the area. So try and travel with other people, or go with a shore excursion to wherever you're going, or just avoid taxis and take the bus or train. Don't want to be bothered while you're sitting in a bar or out by the pool? Bring a book, bring an iPad. It's pretty much a clear message that you don't want to be bothered, and it's probably works about 70% of the time at least as a little extra precaution to keep people away from bothering you and striking up a conversation when you don't want to. Want to meet other solo travelers? Sign up for onboard classes. Many people don't know this, but cooking demonstrations on cruise ships are more than 70% people by themselves and not with their spouse or just single travelers. Because if you think about it, in a household, most people have one main cook for the house. The other person's not really interested in learning different techniques to cook if they're not really cooking. So quite often, one of the spouses will go off and take the class, or if you're traveling by yourself and you want to learn some cooking, you'll take the class by yourself. So it's a great way to meet other people who aren't with their spouses and just introduce yourself. Speaking of creepy, if you happen to be having a conversation with a cruise staff member and you say, yeah, you're going to try this club at this late night stop in a port, and you're wondering what it's like, and they go, you know what? I'm off tonight and I'm going to be going there as well. So why don't I meet you and I'll take you to the club? Red flags and sirens should be going off all over the place, because first of all, cruise staff members are not allowed to fraternize with any guests on board. It's an instant firing if you're caught. So if they're doing that out in the open to the point where they're going to, yeah, I'll take you to a club, then they're not worried too much about their job, and you got to think, well, what are they going to get out of it if they're willing to lose their job over it? So red flags, warning, stay away from anybody who offers to take you to a club and they work for the cruise line. So you're sitting at dinner, you meet somebody across at a big table and you have this conversation going and you actually seem to be clicking and it's going really nice and they're very nice, and you say, hey, why don't we meet tonight at the comedy club and take in the comedy club? Oh, sure, yeah, that'd be fun, that'd be fun. Don't assume that person is single, because some people travel on business and just take cruises on their own because their spouses don't like the cruise, they get seasick, and they're so used to traveling alone that it doesn't dawn on them that they should say, oh, by the way, I'm married. To them, they're married, but they're just friendly. In other cases, they're married and they're looking to fool around while they're away from their spouse. So don't assume somebody is single. Look for the signs and don't be afraid to just say, hey, by the way, you are single, right? Because the look on their face will either, well, of course I'm single, or, well, that's when you gotta watch out. On the flip side, do you want to be left alone? Pick yourself up a wedding band. Cheap little wedding band. You can pick one up at a pawn shop for $5. Wear it proudly. It's just like mosquito repellent and it'll keep all the flies away and the bugs away from bugging you on the cruise ship. Do you want to take a cruise, but you're going to be going solo and you're nervous because you won't know anybody? A good way to do this is contact a travel agent and find out if they have booked a group cruise through that travel agency. So, for instance, what I do is I'll book a year and a half, 2 years out for, say, the Norwegian Epic, and I'll block off 20 cabins. And then I'll sell those cabins to only clients of mine. So I'll have a little group together. Sometimes we'll have a little get-together cocktail party on board, things like that. But I'll also have a Facebook page and all the things that you can meet people from that group. That way, you'll know some faces. You don't have to do events with them. You can do it if you want. You don't have to. But it's good to know that you have people with a common interest, a common theme, if you will, that everyone knows the travel agent. Everyone's usually from around the same area. And just knowing a friendly face sometimes is a little security and makes you feel a little better when you're traveling by yourself. And lastly, the number one reason why I travel solo is I can do whatever I want to do on the cruise. If I wanted to go to the comedy club, I go to the comedy club. If I don't want to have dinner and I want to order room service, I just order room service in tonight. I don't have to listen to somebody else's wants and needs. I can concentrate only on me. And it makes my cruise really, really relaxing that I can just do whatever I want. And when you try it, you probably will agree, isn't it nice not to have to get up at a certain time because you have to go take in that Broadway show that you have no interest in going to see. So traveling by yourself, yeah, do what you want. So there's some watch out, some cost saving things, some heads up about upcoming ships, and just some general knowledge of traveling by yourself or traveling solo on a cruise. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. If you want to see more videos and see a lot more tips and ship reviews and things like that, please hit that subscribe button. Until next time, don't be afraid to travel solo. Have yourself a safe and a great vacation. Oh yeah, before you go, FYI, this is the second time I've done this video because the first time I was editing it and I noticed I said solo traveler a lot. Well, if you're a solo traveler, there's a lot of solo travelers. There's all kinds of reasons to travel solo. The Solo Traveler Studio is only for solo travelers. In fact, I stopped counting when I hit 80. And in a 15-minute video, if you're saying solo traveler within 15 minutes, 80 times, that's really annoying. I annoyed myself. So, you're welcome.